Hello, welcome to another edition of the Pace Report. I'm Brian Pace. Here on the Pace Report over the last 9 years, I've introduced soloists, groups, as well as musicians and artists that are paving way to the tradition of the great rich traditions of jazz, blues, R&B, as well as hip-hop. Tonight, I'm going to introduce you to a vocalist who hails from the UK by the name of Polly Gibbons. Now, what's very unique about Polly is one, that she writes her own material, but as well as she's a very focused as well as dynamic jazz and R&B and blues vocalist. And you'll see what I mean here in a few minutes. Her latest album, Is It Me, is on the Resonant Records imprint, and she covers a cadre of different musicians ranging from the great Grady Tate to Donny Hathaway, as well as the great Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin and Thomas Dolby, just to name the endless few, plus her own originals. Tonight she's being backed by the great Shedrick Mitchell, as well as Paul Bollenback, Mark McLean on drums, and the great Richie Goods on bass, tonight here at the Iridium here in New York City for an official New York record release performance.
Advertising your love for sale. Love is rushing, still unspoiled. Love is only simply for the love. Oh, say you will lie. Who would like to serve all eyes at night? You wanna dry my wheels, follow me and climb the circle. Oh, say it's like a love and go down this ways. I hope it's like a love and a far days. If you want to let love out into the middle love, all love, true love, everything but true love, love. I'm passing your love is if you want to pay the price for which it's paradise. Love, 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 love for sale, advertising your love for sale. Love that's fresh and still unspoiled, love that's only as I desire.
Polly, welcome back to New York, America, and this is the debut of this brand new record. And I just want to say, when I first heard the record, there are these layers of songs that I grew up listening to, and I'm wondering, how does this country girl from the UK get into these songs?
Fair question. Well, I remember when I first heard what you'd call jazz, and it was my sister, who was a vinyl collector. She played I'm a Fool to Want You by Billie Holiday from her Lady in Satin album, and I remember being kind of, I can remember exactly where I was in the house, and I just remember going, oh, ooh, ah, I've never heard anything of that level of emotional rawness in my life, and yet beauty, you know, to extreme beauty, and that sent me off on the trajectory, really. The journey, the jazz journey, which I'm still on.
Well, you know, and it's not fair to say you're a full jazz singer, because you do blues and you do R&B, and you're kind of steeped in the gospel tradition with this band that you have playing with tonight.
Yeah, well, thank you for saying that, because I don't see myself just as a jazz singer at all. I love too many different types of music, and I feel like I'm, not a kind of I'm not out of it. I love blues, I love soul, and I feel like my voice can kind of lend itself to playing around in those fields, and the jazz as well. So,
one of the songs I love on this is Sack Full of Dreams, and my dad had the Grady Tate record, the Windmills of Your Mind record, and Donny Hathaway did the rendition also, which was on the live album. Tell me what this song means to you and why you decided to record this.
I've always loved it, and it's a beautiful melody. The harmony is gorgeous. The words are important, and it's light but deep, and it's playful, and it's heartfelt, and I love it. I've always loved it, and why not record it?
I've got a dream for the world. Peace in the rivers and everywhere. Bridges of steel and love, and cities that smile. Gray, empty faces walk by. Try to hide all their loneliness from lighting a cigarette to blow time away. Lost in the noise, lonely as wind. People on sidewalks with no place to go. Can they come to understand from the love that I'm dreaming? The world of love that I'm I've got a dream. Kites flying home through a summer sky. Forest where children play.
You also write songs also. In fact, you've won some awards back in the UK. Tell me about the process of writing and what inspires you to write.
I absolutely don't have any method to it. I am very much it really has to be kind of inspired. James Pearson and I have co-written a few times, and I've written with other people in the UK, and it really does take different. I'm always writing lyrics, ideas, poetry, thoughts, anguishes down, and sometimes they can work with a melody, and then sometimes I'm noodling around on playing very bad piano. And I think, oh, okay, hang on a minute, this could happen here. And with these 3 songs on the album, James presented some musical ideas, and then we kind of developed them, and we wrote the lyrics, and just kind of came together quite organically and kind of haphazardly, really. I'm no Joni Mitchell, I don't kind of go in a room and I don't know how she does it, actually. I don't know if she goes in a room. She might sit in a chair somewhere.
I just think she just writes poetry. She just I got something in my head. She just commits to write.
It just flows, yeah. But yeah, it's a kind of haphazard process, but sometimes a lyric will come to me, sometimes a melody, sometimes harmony. And then sometimes, in this case, James kind of came to me with, what do you think of this? And off we went, developing it together.
Talk about the title song.
Is it me? Yes, so that's a kind of anxious little ditty about relationships. Is it, isn't it? Will you, won't you? And an interesting one for me, because there's not a lot of, it's a tune that actually doesn't allow much freedom for me to play around with. It's interesting because I have to just sing it quite straight, and I think there's something in that. It's got such a strong melody and it's so wordy. I have to sing it quite cleanly. It's like a little ditty, and I kind of like it for its simplicity.
You have the best of both worlds. You have 2 musical directors. You have James Pearson and you have Tamir Hendelman.
Yeah.
And I've actually profiled Tamir here on the Pace Report many years ago. Tell me what both of these gentlemen are bringing to your vision musically and also to the sound in the band.
Well, they're both exceptional with singers, which I think is a really kind of underestimated skill and art form as an accompanist, really. It's a real gift to be able to enhance and play and be subtle and bold and challenging but sensitive with a singer in a different way to an instrumentalist, and frame the story, because of course singers, we're telling stories, and that's key for me. And they both arrange and with that in mind, with the story, to enhance the story and to enhance who I am, and I'm extremely lucky.
You know what to ask you, you've been traveling all over the world now. How is it different performing in your native UK versus here in the United States and probably certain parts of the world?
If you guys like it, you let me know. In England, it's a little bit more polite. It's a bit more. Whereas if you like it here, it's woo. I hear it and I feel it. And I suppose vice versa. It's quite. If not, if you don't. Luckily, I haven't really been on the receiving end of that. I've generally had the whoops, which is, I guess, that's the difference, really.
Is it me? Are you counting the cost as you hold your hand up once again? What's to be in this moment in time? Face to face, the truth is hard to find. All I want is to let you know I love you. Why is it so hard to say when I'm free to be me? I don't need for fear now, trust in what you say. I could ask, would you choose me again after all this time and so many days? Right task, reconciling the hurt and connecting after all these years. All I want to do, tell you that I love you. Why is it so hard to say when I'm free to be me? I don't need for fear, I'll trust in what you say. Oh, throw away another day. Shame to say, it can't carry on like this. A moment in time that will never be missed. And I know I've imagined a time I can look into your eyes and say, hold my hand, I am here, rain or shine. I embrace this journey every day. Then I'll tell you the reason why I love you. It isn't so hard to say I am free. This is me. I've no need for fear. I love you anyway.
Let's talk about some of your influences. I read some very interesting things. First of all, one of your main influences is Aretha Franklin. Now, I can see the parallel because, Aretha started off in the church, but also her father was very instrumental in letting her investigate all music. She sang it all.
Yeah, she really did sing it all. And Aretha truly is one of my, well, still is, just a hero, really. Just a natural musician, singer with a superb voice, who knew how to just let it go, still does.
What about the concept of her playing piano and singing at the same time, because those are two different instruments and they're very, very hard to do.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. I would love to develop my piano playing one day and do that, because I think with that, although challenging, you can also really accompany where you're going to go. You know where you're going to go, and what makes it so great when you watch her, playing, is that she knows exactly what she wants. There's no, why did he play that? Or don't play that run there. I was going to sing a phrase, and someone's getting in the way of it. She's utterly free to do that. And I love that.
What are some of your favorite records, of albums, or songs that you like by Miss Franklin?
Well, I love the gospel one, Amazing Grace. I love Spirit in the Dark. Never Loved a Man. I can't. It's kind of hard to say, but I do love, and I love her. You know, her early jazz as well. You know, the Love for Sale. Dum 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 dum.
The Columbia stuff, yeah.
Dum 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 dum. Love for Sale. It's so swinging. You know, it's just super, and you know, it's so I don't know how to pick.
You know, Ian Shaw, was blessed to meet him a couple of years ago, and he was a mentor to you. And tell the American audience who Ian Shaw is and why he's so very instrumental to some of the jazz vocalists in the UK.
Well, you hit the nail on the head. He is. He is a very generous spirit and an extremely good musician with a brilliant voice and a very free improviser. And he champions people. I met him when I was... actually, James Pearson I met when I was 15 with Jackie Dankworth at a workshop, and then they both said, Ian was doing a workshop locally in my local area, and they both said, you've got to check out this young singer. And Ian did, and then kind of took me under his wing, and I lived with him for a year in London, and he introduced me to the whole scene, and we had a lot of fun together, monkeying around together, going to jazz clubs, getting back at 4 a.m. and eating lots of food and just having fun. And he's just very generous spirited and very up for life and compassionate and super musician.
Another day, shame to say, they come down me on like this. Romantic time will never miss. And I know I've imagined time. I can look into your eyes and say, hold my hand, I can hear rain or shine. I face this journey every day, then I'll tell you the reason why I love you. It isn't so hard to say I am free. This is me. I've no need for fear. I'll love you anyway. I've no need for fear. I'll love you anyway. Oh, I've no need for fear. I'll love you anyway. Thank you very much indeed.
What are some of the things that you want to accomplish here in America with, one, just developing your bass, but also musically? Because here tonight you have a stellar band. I mean, Paul Bollenback and Shedrick Mitchell. I mean, these guys, and Richie Goods, these guys are phenomenal. And I've seen them play with many other musicians. And tonight they kind of they did compliment everything that you were doing.
Well, that's great. I mean, it felt good to me. I'm glad you enjoyed it too. I'm glad it seemed like that. Well, they're just, I mean, I've really kind of lucked out there. I've seen them all in different guises at different times. You know, Richie's with Chris Botti, Shedrick's with Maxwell, Mark McLean. I mean, they just all played on an extremely high level, and I feel pleased to be playing with them and having fun with them. You know, I'm glad that it is fun, you know, and I think they're having fun too. And they're such versatile musicians, you know, that it's not every jazzer can groove, you know, not every can play blues and gospel and soul and leave space, and not every, you know, soul bluesy artist can swing, you know, and to find a band that can kind of do it all and brilliantly is you know, a treat.
And also, we cannot leave out the guys at Resonance Records, Zev and George. Those guys have done some tremendous things as far as reissuing a lot of great music by artists, icons that literally, you know, we will never see or hear any. And these guys are doing it. And also putting out artists like yourself that are bringing a new voice to the idiom of jazz.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, Zev's amazing. He's always on the hunt for, you know, unreleased archive stuff, you know, so that we can catch new glimpses of these legends. And of course, George started the whole company, you know, with his love and with his sneaky recordings of Bill Evans and, you know, all these, we're just endless legends, really, he's kind of done. And it's just like, now he's chosen to look after me. And I'm very pleased to be part of that team. It's quite a unique label. I mean, people just aren't, even major labels, they're not taking punts, they're not developing artists, and you know, George is choosing to do that with me, and I feel very, very lucky. And luck is a funny word, but I feel privileged and I feel thankful for it.
Polly, this is the last question, and this is the hardest, the one I ask everybody. Polly Gibbons, what does jazz music mean to you?
That's outrageous. Freedom, depth, questing, yearning, tension, release, all of these cliched words. It's a special art form in the moment, you know, to be enjoyed by people who are of that persuasion and have that spirit too.
That'll do it again for this very special edition of the Pace Report. I'm Brian Pace. I'd like to personally congratulate and thank Miss Polly Gibbons for her time. Make sure you go out and support her brand new CD, Is It Me?, which is on Resonant Records. You can now buy it on Amazon.com as well as Resonant Records website and iTunes. Also, I'd like to personally thank the guys at Resonant Records, George as well as Zeb, also Marianne Toppler at the Jazz Tree. Also, I'd like to personally thank the staff and management at the Iridium for their warm hospitality, and Cheryl Firlstein at East West Media. As always, please visit my website, www.thepacereport.com, for my weekly column as well as my past segments. Until next time, remember, if it's in the groove, it'll make you move. Till next time, peace.
Another day, conversations to